I wasn't just sure what it was. No one was sure. No one except the natives. And they were positive. They said it was Godzilla.
What's going on, people? LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Collect All Monsters. And oh man, this is so awesome. This is so great. You already clicked the title. You know exactly who we're covering here. So without further ado, let's dive headfirst into this awesome X-Plus Gigantic Series figure review. And today we're taking a look at the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line, Standard Edition. Best of his iconic appearance in his first ever iconic film, Gojira 1954, Godzilla 1954, aka Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956. And as you can see here, I have the beautiful figure here in all his glory. And yes, it's been a long time coming for this guy. It's been a long road to get to this guy, but he is finally here after all this time, and he is amazing. So you know I'm gonna do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with the box before we get into the figure. And here's a picture of the box with stunning artwork of the figure, a black silhouette image of the figure. Favorite Sculptors Line Gigantic Series, Godzilla 1954. Of course, the Japanese title of the film, Gojira, or Godzilla 1954, in the upper right hand corner. Once again, love the box. Gonna keep it, not gonna trash it, because once again, I'm into the boxes. Y'all know that. So that's nothing new, quite frankly. But the artwork on the box is awesome. It really is awesome. But enough about the box. Let's get into the figure. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla Standard Edition, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line. And I hope you got your favorite beverage and or snack with you, because it's an elongated backstory with this guy. All right, so let's get into that right now. Now, here's the backstory. We first saw images of this guy at the Super Festival Show 84 last year, I believe. It was around November of 2020. And we saw basically just an unpainted prototype of this figure. And that was the first announcement, if you will, that this figure was coming in the Gigantic Series. Now, mind you, this is the second 54 to make his appearance in the Gigantic Series. The previous one was the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 1954. And at the time, a lot of people were questioning why would they go back to the 54 after they have done the Yuji Sakai version, you know? And while a lot of people questioned it, a lot of people were happy to get it. Or at least happy that this figure was coming, because a lot of people didn't really pick up the Yuji Sakai 54 when it first came out several years ago. So this was their chance to finally own a Gigantic Series version of the 1954 in their collection. So a lot of people were happy about that. Fast forward to March 2021 of this year, during the X-Plus Spring Kaiju online event, and they finally showcased pictures of this figure, painted, because at the Super Festival 84 show, it wasn't painted. So March 2021, they showcased pictures of this figure painted. Then a month later, it came up for pre-order. Now, this is the standard, like I said, and the standard comes with Godzilla by himself. The Rick version of this figure came with three little small cannons that you can place in the foreground up against Godzilla to kind of simulate that awesome iconic steel of Godzilla in Tokyo being opposed by the military. So that was a good grab. But I opted to go for the standard because I didn't feel like the extra 60 or 70 bucks for the little cannons was worth it. But if you got the Rick, then hey, you got yourself a great grab, like I said. Now, Again, this is from the Favorite Sculptors line. Now, this is somewhat of a really big deal, no pun intended, because this is the first ever gigantic series figure to make it into the Favorite Sculptors line. Now, they have done 25 centimeter figures before, and 30 centimeter figures before. And of course, the Favorite Sculptors line was a line that was introduced a couple of years ago, and basically that line is basically them, X-Plus I'm talking about, using established model kits, famous model kits, and they make vinyl representations of those model kits in X-Plus form. You see what I'm saying? They have done a few of them before, like the 25 centimeter GMK Baragon and Mothra set. Those were taken from a Monster Maker 28 kits. Or the 30 centimeter Gamma 1965 from the Favorite Sculptors line that was taken from a Sakai Sakai kit. And this kit right here, the 54, is taken from an Inoue Arts kit. Now, the backstory about the Inoue Arts kit is it was first released in resin back in 1986. Then it was reissued in vinyl from the Paradise Model Kit Company and the Falchion Company, if I'm remembering that correctly. And to go a step further, remember those that company called Tokyo Mirai that created 3 kaiju radio controlled figures, 2 of Godzilla himself and 1 of Mothra. And those figures came in 2 pieces, where it came in an endoskeleton that they did all the movements, the walking, the movement of the tails or whatever, and it came with the rubber skin, monster skin that you had to place on top of the endoskeleton. And they did Mothra Larva, 1961, I believe, and they did a 1989 Godzilla, and they did a 1954 Godzilla. And in the 54's case, the rubber skin that you put over the endoskeleton was actually made in the sculpt of the Inoue Arts kit. You know what I'm saying? And to go a step further, I actually had this kit at one time. I had the kit of the Inoue Arts. I think it was actually, you know what? I take that back. I think I had the Paradise one because I had the vinyl one. Because like I said, the Inoue Arts one was resin. And I had that kit a long time ago, but I since sold it. But I'm glad that in some way, shape, or form, it finally came back to me in my collection. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much the backstory, the long backstory with us getting this guy, the road to get to this guy, my personal perspective or personal attachments to this now or this sculpt, I should say. And after all this time, I'm finally glad that he is finally here. You know what I'm saying? So that's it with the backstory. So you know we do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with this guy. Once again, this is the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line, Standard Edition. And before we go into up close and personal, I forgot to mention this. The Rick version of this figure, like I said, came with 3 little small military cannons that you can place up against Godzilla. Now, actually, I thought when I saw that was going to be the Rick feature of this figure, I actually thought that was just a random thing that X-Plus did. But actually, after doing some research, the 3 cannons actually came with the original kit, the original Inoue Arts resin kit, right? And it also came with the base where you could put the cannons and Godzilla on top of the base. Now, let me just say this. If the base along with the cannons came with the Rick version of this figure, I probably would have went for the Rick for this guy, because I love bases. I love creating little mini diorama pieces, excuse me. And that's exactly what you would have gotten had they included the base, But once again, I felt the 3 little cannons wasn't really worth the extra money. But once again, if they did provide the base from the original kit into the Rick feature of this figure along with the cannons, I more likely would have went for the Rick. But either way, I'm glad to have the standard nonetheless. And right off the bat, and I'm going to say this a lot because I'm comparing this to the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54, which you'll see in size comparisons later on. But right off the bat, this 54 is in a way a step above the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54. And that's something that you probably won't hear a lot of times, that something is a step above a Yuji Sakai piece. But I have to tell you, this is exactly what it is. Because the enriched texture on the skin is the main selling point. Because the Yuji Sakai, as much as I love that figure, as much as I love the sculpt of that figure, it was a bland... It was a bland detail on the sculpt of that figure. It didn't look like a Sakai, in my opinion. But this one right here just ups the ante when it comes to the detail. Just the tree bark skin of Godzilla is really defined pretty much on every single skin morsel on his body is defined, And that's really the first thing that you'll notice once you get this figure in your hands, especially if you're an owner or a previous owner of the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54. So The tree bark skin is done really, really, really well. You know, you have like the bends and folds on his neck here to kind of simulate the bagginess of the suit. Because there were some scenes in the original Godzilla film where Godzilla came across a little bit as baggy. He wasn't slimmed down like it would be in the next film, or maybe Mothra vs. Godzilla. So the bagginess that you see, like I said, on the necks, on his thighs or whatever, is really, really accurate in my opinion. The toenails sculpted really well, colored really well. You have some highlights on his knees here. Once again, like I said, with the bagginess up on the neck here, you kind of have some bagginess going around the thighs, you know, whatever. And this figure not only is taller than Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54, he's actually thicker and he's bigger, which is a good thing. But once again, you'll see that up close and personal in size comparisons later on. His claws here, now that's something that's kind of different from the Yuji Sakai 54. The Yuji Sakai 54 Gigantic had web hands. Like his claws had like some webbing in between his fingers. But if you look here on this one, it doesn't have that. And I think the suit really, I think the original suit did have webbing in his hands, but it's not apparent here. So I think probably that's the one thing that's not suit accurate when it comes to this figure. But still, that's like maybe like a small little nitpick on my part, and something you probably really won't even notice it. You know what I'm saying? But still, the claws are sculpted really, really well. The tail sculpted really well. Unlike the gigantic Sakai 54, where his tail is laying flat, this is like typical Godzilla, you know, tail, where it's going up and going out. Now, before we get to the dorsal plates, let me explain this one little thing that I see a lot of folks go crazy for. Just a few people. But this figure comes with a tail stand. And let me just say this, the figure doesn't really need a tail stand. I provide inserts here what the figure looks like with or without the tail stand. But the figure is so big that you don't really need the tail stand. But if you want to change Godzilla's posture, you can always use a tail stand and have him look more downwards. You know what I'm saying? Like he's about to attack somebody or attack Tokyo. But I've seen so many people, well, at least a few people I should say, that really have taken issue with the fact that X-Plus provided a tail stand. And here's my reaction to that. I'm like, seriously? Of all the things to complain about when it comes to this figure, especially before you get your hands on it, you're going to complain that it comes with a tail stand? Let me give you a newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, who have an issue with this. You ain't got to use the tail stand. You ain't got to use it. As you see here, Godzilla doesn't necessarily need it. But again, I think this was added just to give Godzilla more of a more downward attack posture or menacing posture. But for those who don't have an issue with this, you can use it or not use it, because as you can see, he doesn't really need it. But for those who do have an issue with this, you ain't got to use it. I want to address that because, like I said, I've seen a few people become upset because they provided a tail stand. And once again, it's not an issue for me. And this would go into my box of tail stands that I'm not using. I know at some point it may come out with a figure that may use a tail stand. As I always say, it's better to have it and not need it versus need it and not having. So the tail stand is not really an issue for me. Now, let's get on back to the figure. All right, the dorsal plates. Dorsal plates look awesome, look stunning. Basically just like the just like Godzilla 1954. But the main dorsal plate, the big one on the middle of his back here, that one is kind of like slanted to the left a little bit, or at least it's slanted to the right if you look at it from the back view, right? And that's kind of like similar to the gigantic 1962 King Goji, where his main big dorsal plate on his back is kind of like slanted a little bit. And I actually like that because, like I mentioned in my review of that figure a few years ago, that to me kind of signifies that, you know, because there were times when Godzilla would move, his dorsal plates were kind of like flimsy appendages. There are times where they would just flap back and forth, especially if he was rocked real hard or if he stepped on something real hard and it shifted his body. His dorsal plate would kind of go back and forth, right? So the dorsal plate being slanted here just signifies to me that, you know, they were going back and forth, at least this one in particular. So I kind of like that little added touch of realism when it comes to the sculpt of this figure right here. They painted really well. The shapes of the dorsal plates look absolutely perfect in my opinion. All right, now let's move on to the face. Once again, picture perfect in my opinion, where you have, you know, the individually sculpted teeth, you know, the eyebrows, the eyes, just those beady little eyes that look really menacing. And the money shot is when you have him probably up on a pedestal where he's looking down upon you and you're looking up at him. That looks great from that vantage point in my opinion. and the face kind of really just pops out that way. But the face looks amazing. Like I said, the eyebrows, the eyes, the individually sculpted teeth, the ears look really well done. And that's the thing. I don't really notice the ears at first when I watch the 54 or the 55 or the Heisei version of Godzilla, because from 62 to 75 he didn't really have ears. But when he does have ears, it does look good, especially on this figure right here. And at certain vantage points, especially if you look at him head on, the ears kind of look more perked up, so he kind of comes off as a devil looking monster. Which basically that's what it was in the original film. He was a devil demon, you know what I'm saying? And the sculpt of the head, like I said, everything about the head, the face, the facial features looks phenomenal. So from head sculpt, the dorsal plates, the tail stand, you know, the bagginess of the suit, the color of the suit, his toenails, top to bottom, just the extra detail applied to the skin of this figure once again makes it so awesome, and a step above the Yuji Sakai. But yeah, that's pretty much it with what I want to say about this figure up close and personal. So if you locked in for a pre-order for this guy, where's the standard order Rick, and once again, if you did miss out on the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54, and you definitely get your hands on this one, you'll be in hog heaven once he arrives, because he is awesome, and the road it took to get to this guy was well worth it, because he is just that. He is amazing, and you will not be disappointed once he is in your hands. Trust me when I say that. Now, I've been talking about the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54 throughout the video here. So you know what? Let's bring up the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 1954 Godzilla and put him up against this version of the Gigantic 54, courtesy of Favorite Sculptors Line, in the one and only size comparison. And let's see how the two Gigantic 54s look in this one and only size comparison. So let's go with that size comparison right now. Okay, folks, here we are with the first and only size comparison, and yes, alongside the Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line Standard Edition, I have the standard edition of the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 1954, the previous Gigantic 1954 Godzilla, and as you can see here, you can clearly see the difference between the two figures here. As I mentioned earlier, this new one, the FSL version, is bigger, it is thicker. You can tell the more detailed ridges on the skin here, versus the Yuji Sakai. It's kind of like a bland detail on that figure. And honestly, that's something that I would have never expected, because when you think about Sakai pieces, right, we kind of associate a certain level of high quality when it comes to the Sakais here. But as you can see here, the Favorite Sculptors Line really kind of blows the Yuji Sakai out of the water. Now, let me preface this by saying this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to say that the Yuji Sakai is a bad figure. It's a good figure, but the fact that it is a Sakai and the fact that it's not great was a disappointment. You know what I'm saying? And I can honestly say between the two figures, they both are relatively priced at the same price, you know? Because the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54 was priced around $530, I think, with a little extra $100 something for shipping. That's pretty much the same price that you get with the Favorite Sculptors Line version here. And I've said for years that the figure of the Yuji Sakai didn't really justify the cost. The bland paint job really wasn't really what I think we should have paid for that figure, if I'm making any sense here. But the Favorite Sculptors Line, this was well worth every penny of the $500 something that we paid to get this figure. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I didn't want to be one of these collectors that sold the Yuji Sakai in favor of the Favorite Sculptors Line. There's still value in the Sakai 54 Gigantic. There's still value, but clearly right here, as you can see, the Favorite Sculptors Line is clearly, in my opinion, the better of the two. So if you missed out on the Sakai Gigantic 54, and you really want a gigantic version of the 54 Godzilla in your collection, go for the Favorite Sculptors Line, because I think you will enjoy it. And I think between the two figures, it's the better figure of the two. But still, there's value in the Sakai version. But still, as it stands right now, in my opinion, the Favorite Sculptors Line wins this hands down. Alright, so that's pretty much it with the one and only size comparison between the two Gigantic 54s that X-Plus has ever done. And this is awesome. Yes, yes, yes. So without further ado, let's go with my final commentary portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line Standard Edition. Once again, in my opinion, 10 out of 10. I don't see anything wrong with this figure. The only thing, like I said, that's probably not super accurate is the fact that the there's no webbing on his claws here or his hands. Once again, that's like a small little nitpick, and I think a lot of Godzilla fans probably will not even think about that once you get this figure in your hands. But aside from that, in my opinion, this is an awesome figure of the 1954 Godzilla. And as I mentioned earlier, if you missed out on the Yuji Sakai Gigantic 54 and you really want a Gigantic 54 in your collection, or a Gigantic of the 1954 Godzilla in your collection, you can't go wrong with this figure right here, because as you saw in the previous size comparison, in my opinion, this one is bigger, it is better looking, it has better texture on the skin. So between the two figures, even though, like I said, they were relatively priced the same, in my opinion, this is the better of the two. So if you locked in for a pre-order for this guy, whether it's the direct or the standard, you will be in hog heaven once he arrives, because this is a stunning, awesome figure, and I'm glad he's finally here after all this time. Now, once again, as I mentioned earlier, this is the second 54 to make its way into the Gigantic series, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors line. And as I talked about the sculpt or the kit that was made from this Godzilla 1954 figure, it got me to thinking, you know what? We may not have seen the last of a Gigantic series / Favorite Sculptors line figure to make its way into the X-Plus roster, right? And in my opinion, there are 3 Gigantic series figures that I want to see courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors line, and ironically, they're coming from all 3 eras of Godzilla: the Showa, Heisei, and Millennium. Now, what I want to see come from a Gigantic series / Favorite Sculptors line collaboration in the future from the Showa, and this probably gonna be a no-brainer for everybody, but the M1 1964 Godzilla, yes, my grail figure, yes. I think X-Plus should definitely go after that figure of the M1 1964 Godzilla, a 50-centimeter kit of the Mosu Goji. In my opinion, the best-looking figure or sculpt of the 1964 Godzilla that you will ever find. And like the 54, the Gigantic 64 from X-Plus, the first version, wasn't really received all that well from a lot of folks. So if they can make up for it by giving us an M1, like they made up for the 54 with the Inoue Arts here, I think that would be a good thing to do. Now, let's go to the Heisei. And of course, we got the Gigantic 89 from X-Plus, which is a stunning figure, you know what I'm saying? But if they were to go back to the 89 for the Gigantic series, why not use the Goro kit of the 1989 Godzilla? And that figure of the Goro kit of the 89 looks awesome in my opinion. He has more elongated fangs, his gums are showing. To me, he looks more like a ferocious version of the 1989 Godzilla. Kind of come across like the 91, if you really think about it. So if they were to go back to the 89 for the Gigantic series, and they want to do a Favorite Sculptors line version, why not use the kit from Goro of the 1989 Godzilla? Now, let's go to the Millennium. And again, the Yuji Sakai Godzilla 1999-2000 figure, even though it's a good figure, it is the smallest of the Gigantics, and in a way that kind of worked against that particular figure, however. But if they were to go with another Godzilla 2000, make it more suit accurate, not the maquette design from Yuji Sakai, but more suit accurate Godzilla 2000, and again, we go back to Goro, like I said, with the 89. Why not use the Goro kit of the Godzilla 2000? Because Goro made an awesome kit of the 2000 Godzilla, and he looks amazing. He looks very more ferocious, kind of like the 89 that I talked about just now. But if they were to do that and bring it into the Gigantic series, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors line, I think that would be a great thing. So the M1, the Goro 89, the Goro 2000, if they were to do that, I think that will garner some awesome sales and some guaranteed sellout for pre-order if they were to do that. But once again, I don't think we have seen the last of the Gigantic series / Favorite Sculptors line collaboration, courtesy of X-Plus. And if this was the start of many to come, sign me up, because I'm definitely going after every single one of them. Trust me when I say that. But until then, this is such a great figure, as I mentioned earlier. And if you are locked in for a pre-order, you would not be disappointed once this guy comes on your doorstep. Yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors line Standard Edition. Best of an iconic appearance in his first ever iconic film that kicked off the Godzilla franchise, Gojira 1954, Godzilla 1954, aka Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956. If you have any questions, comment down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Leslie Chambers, will definitely go from there. Yes, once again, Great figure. I'm so glad this guy is finally here. He is awesome. He is amazing, and he is such an improvement over the previous gigantic 54. And he's just awesome. Yes, he is. So once again, if you're in line to get this guy, you would not be disappointed. If you were iffy about getting this guy, but you still pre-order it, you know, you will love it. You would definitely love it, and you would definitely see the differences between this one and the Sakai gigantic 54. Once again, I don't mean to badmouth the Sakai 54 because it is a great figure. It really is. But this one just proves that this one is better and improvements could have been made. But this one kind of, in a way, like I said, blows the Sakai 54 out of the water. Even though the Sakai 54, excuse me, is a great figure. But this one is even better. And in my opinion, one of the best 54s that X-Plus has ever done. And there's no question about that. All right, so much stuff is coming here on the channel. Oh my God, I got a few box days coming. I got a certain 3-headed gigantic golden dragon coming. I just got word that the Monster 92 25-cent figure is coming real soon. I got word that the Death of Real Mecha Godzilla 75 Rick exclusive edition of that figure is coming real soon. So there will be lots of interesting content coming on the Leslie Chambers Kaiju reviews for the foreseeable future. And thank you so much for being on this ride with me. I really do appreciate it. But once again, get this figure. Get this figure, you will not be disappointed. So ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the X-Plus Gigantic Series 1954 Godzilla, courtesy of the Favorite Sculptors Line, Standard Edition. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on this figure move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.